when you think of magnets, you think of permanent magnets, and that's something we've got here. As you can see, this is just an iron rod, and a permanent magnet sticks to the iron rod. But there's also another kind of magnet, which is other kinds of metals, which are not magnetic. And right here we've got an aluminium tube, and as you can see, it doesn't stick to the magnet. However, I can drop this magnet through this tube, and yeah, there's a couple of things that could happen. Let's do a raise of hand again. Who of you thinks the magnet will stick to the inside of the tube? Just a couple of hands. Who of you thinks it will fall through a bit faster than normal? Okay, who of you thinks it will fall through slower than normal? Quite a bunch of hands. And who of you thinks it won't do anything and will just fall a regular speed? I don't think I see any hands. Okay. Well, let's see what happens. Is it stuck? Oh, it's not stuck. It just fell through a lot slower. What's happening here is basically the same as instead of a regular magnet, a permanent magnet, it's forming an electromagnet in this tube. And what's happening is the falling magnet is causing some current to start flowing inside of this tube, which is in turn causing a magnetic field which pushes back against the magnet. So while it's falling, it's causing the magnet to be pushed back and falling a lot slower than normal. This is based on how much current is induced in the tube. So by cooling it down, we can have a look what happens if the tube can conduct electricity a bit better. So if it's conducting more electricity and therefore getting a bigger magnetic push back, it's probably going to have a stronger effect, which it's actually stuck right now. I'll just take off the magnet and try again. Because it got stuck against the wall. Let's see if it happens again. I think the magnet's a bit too big.
I believe this thing might be magnetic. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah, okay, that's possible. It got stuck a bit higher than that the first time, but yeah.
So I'll just hold this with a glove and maybe see if it falls through this time.
Let's see. No, yeah, it's still falling. Okay.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's hard to see if it was still falling, it's falling a lot slower, and that's because there's a bigger magnetic field pushing back. In this tube, the conductivity of the tube was pretty good, but not perfect. And in that tube, the conductivity was a lot better, which means that the pushback against the magnet that's falling through was a lot bigger, keeping it falling slower. And yeah, this is something that it's called induction. You might have an induction stovetop at your home, and that's something that's caused by a magnet having changing its magnetic field in the presence of some conductor.
Yeah, and here we were talking about conductivity, but conversely we could be talking about electrical resistance, which is the opposite of conductivity, which means that more electrical resistance keeps the magnetic field slightly lower, so that the magnet is able to fall faster. But higher resistance, lower resistance, means that the magnet is able to push back against itself more, so that it falls slower. But we have some materials at our disposal which have a very special property in that they have zero electrical resistance. And zero electrical resistance means that the magnet is able to push back against itself exactly, perfectly in balance with whichever way it moves. Which I'll hopefully be able to show here. So what we got here is what we call a superconductor. And that means that the electrical resistance is zero if you cool it down. And when the electrical resistance is zero, the magnet won't be able to move, because any direction it moves, it's being pushed against exactly in the opposite direction, which means that in particular the magnet will float on top of the superconductor. Hopefully that's visible. Otherwise I'll just go to the other side and try again. So you might be able to see that the magnet isn't actually touching the superconductor. It's really floating above it, even if I turn it. And there's no tricks going on. Again, this is physics, so there's no tricks going on. If you were to push a piece of rubber band beneath it,
there's no strings, no sticks it's resting on.
Yeah, and even stranger, if I were to put it upside down, even then, the magnet won't be able to move, and it really just float underneath it. So this material is super interesting, because having the property that you have zero electrical resistance is extremely rare. In fact, we have to cool it down here with liquid nitrogen, which is extremely cold. It might be convenient if we were to be able to discover a superconductor which works at room temperature. In fact, no physicist actually knows whether that should be possible or how such a material should work. So it's really up in the air whether such a material is possible. And one of you, if you're interested in physics or science, might be able to come up with a solution which will make you rich and famous, and mostly it's just extremely interesting.